Sometimes it's just been so natural to us. We don't realize that maybe a strong way to say it is we're cursing our future. You can curse your future, or you can bless your future. So be careful what you say. I think I love where you say we need to send out. Well, I think in that case, God was saying I am everything because I am right now. Mine is a different take on it. It is what follows the words I am. I believe you're inviting into your life. That's part of our message, is you don't know what God's dream for your life is. It's bigger than your own. And that's what I've seen. I never dreamed 13 years ago that I'd be sitting here with you, or we'd be in the arena where I used to watch the Rockets play. And so Joel Osteen took $4.4 million in COVID loans meant for small businesses while living in a $10.5 million mansion. His church spends only 1% on charity. He preaches God wants you rich, yet charges $15 for tickets to hear him speak. His TV show reaches millions, but he rarely mentions sin or Jesus. We're normal people. It's just talking about living a blessed life, being a blessing to other people, being happy, having good relationships. When critics called him fake, he bought another home for $3 million. With declining attendance and mounting criticism, Osteen's perfect smile can't hide the growing cracks. Joel Osteen was born on March 5, 1963, in Houston, Texas. He was one of 6 kids in a home that revolved around church, faith, and family. His father, John Osteen, had already left the Southern Baptist tradition by then and started something new. It all began after a major shift in 1958 when Joel's sister Lisa was born with severe disabilities. That moment changed everything. John and his wife Dodie turned to faith healing and embraced charismatic Christianity. Just 1 year later, in 1959, they founded Lakewood Church in a rundown feed store. It only had 234 seats, but something powerful was beginning. By the late 1970s, that small space had turned into a growing church with over 5,000 people. Joel grew up watching all this. While his siblings were either preaching or serving, Joel stayed quiet. He didn't want the spotlight. He preferred helping behind the scenes. In 1981, he finished high school at Humble High. Then he went to Oral Roberts University to study radio and television. But after less than a year, he dropped out. He didn't want a degree. He wanted to build something with his dad. At just 19, Joel made a huge decision. In 1982, he left college and went back to Houston to help with the church's television work. He started the television ministry that same year. He began small, with 1 local channel and 1 national cable network. For 17 years, Joel stayed behind the camera. He produced, edited, directed, and even tracked what suits his dad wore every Sunday. He made sure every broadcast looked flawless. He wanted Lakewood to look as polished as any Hollywood show. While others preached, Joel kept pushing buttons, adjusting lights, and editing footage. He had no training in preaching and no formal education in theology. But he was absorbing everything. Editing hundreds of his father's sermons taught him more than any classroom could. Even then, he refused to take the stage. His dad would ask him to preach, and Joel would always say no. "You're the preacher," he told him. "I'll make you look good on TV." Then everything changed in January 1999. On the 17th, Joel finally said yes. He preached his first sermon. 6 days later, his father died of a heart attack. Joel's first sermon turned out to be the last one his dad ever heard. With no warning, Joel was thrown into the role of leading a church with 6,000 members. He didn't want it. He didn't feel ready. He had no preaching experience. Many doubted him. Still, something clicked. At the time, about 8,000 people came to Lakewood each week. Big for Houston, but not for the nation. Within 5 years, everything changed. By 2004, weekly attendance had exploded to somewhere between 25,000 and 30,000. That wasn't just big. It was the biggest church in America. And it didn't happen by accident. Joel doubled the budget for television airtime. He picked the best time slots in major cities. He filled highways with billboards. But more than anything, his sermons felt different. They were simple, uplifting, full of hope. People tuned in, and they stayed. The crowds got so big that Lakewood's 8,000-seat building just wasn't enough. Joel began talking about something that sounded impossible. He said one day they would preach to 100,000 people every weekend. Many laughed, but then came the boldest move yet. In 2003, Lakewood struck a deal with the city of Houston to lease the Compaq Center. It was the old home of the Houston Rockets. This was no small church hall. It was a 16,000-seat sports arena. The lease itself cost $12 million for 30 years, with the option to extend for another 30 years at $22 million. But the real shock came from a renovation cost. Lakewood committed nearly $95 million to transform the arena. That's around $158 million today. It took 15 months to rebuild. They gutted the arena and added 5 floors inside. Waterfalls, miles of new carpet, 200,000 square feet of rooms, broadcast studios, classrooms, everything had to feel new. People couldn't believe it. A basketball stadium turning into a house of worship. It had never been done like this. In 2010, Lakewood bought the building outright for $7.5 million. But the true shift came even earlier on July 16, 2005. That was the grand opening. The new Lakewood Church opened its doors and every seat was filled. 16,000 people came in person. Millions more watched on TV. For many Houstonians, the place where they once watched NBA stars was now a church filled with lights, music, and positive energy. And the audience kept growing. Weekly attendance soon crossed 40,000. TV broadcasts reached an estimated 10 million viewers in over 100 countries. This wasn't just a church anymore. It was a movement, a media empire. And Joel Osteen was at the center of it all. What made Joel so different was his message. He didn't preach fire and brimstone. He didn't focus on sin or judgment. Instead, he talked about hope, dreams, believing in yourself, and trusting God's plan. Critics called it Christian light, but his followers didn't care. They found comfort in his smile and strength in his words. He told people they weren't broken, that better days were coming, and they believed him. From the start, Joel knew the power of media. In just a few years, Lakewood's TV broadcast reached 92% of American households. That's almost every home in the country. Around 10 million Americans tuned in every week, and even more watched from over 100 countries around the world. By 2017, the church's media efforts cost $25 million a year, but they paid off. Lakewood launched a Sirius XM radio station. Joel started doing Night of Hope events in stadiums. Everywhere he went, tens of thousands showed up. And it all worked because his message was clear, simple, and positive. When Joel Osteen released Your Best Life Now in October 2004, most people didn't expect it to do much. He was a first-time author and a pastor, not a celebrity. But within just 3 months, the book had sold over 500,000 copies. By May 2005, it had passed 1 million. That alone was impressive. But then it stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for more than 200 straight weeks, almost 4 years. In total, it sold over 4 million copies worldwide. It wasn't just a Christian book anymore. It had become a cultural hit. The mix of faith, motivation, and simple hope connected with everyone from churchgoers to people who never touched a Bible. Joel's friendly tone made it easy to read. His ideas about living a better life felt real. That book didn't just make him famous. It changed how religious authors wrote and sold books forever. Joel didn't stop with just one book. He turned his success into a full-blown business. He wrote over 15 books, and at least 7 of them became New York Times bestsellers. His 2005 book, Become a Better You, made him $13 million in royalties and advance money. His live events were even bigger. For every speech, he could earn anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. He filled arenas across the United States and even overseas. He also built a huge merchandise business selling books, CDs, clothes, and gifts. Most of it sold through Lakewood Church's giant gift shop or online. Then came his social media empire, 25 million followers on Facebook, 10 million on Twitter, and 5 million on Instagram. These platforms brought even more attention, sponsors, and money. In 2013, Joel did something that no other pastor had done on this scale. He launched a nationwide arena tour called Night of Hope. These weren't free events. Tickets were sold usually around $15 each, and people came in massive numbers. Over 20,000 people packed Miami's American Airlines Arena just to hear him speak. The events often sold out in big cities like New York and Los Angeles, and later even in London. By 2019, he had filled Wembley Arena. These weren't just sermons. They felt like concerts, music, lights, energy, and hope. The church spent millions on these events, but the returns were huge. Night of Hope changed how people saw faith events. They were no longer small gatherings. They were global productions. All of this was part of a bigger plan. Joel didn't rely only on religious channels like most pastors. He went to the biggest stages in mainstream media. He sat down with Oprah. He appeared on Larry King Live. He went on Good Morning America. These shows reached people who never watched Christian television or went to church. His interviews brought his message into the spotlight. He addressed criticism, including backlash to his prosperity gospel. He didn't talk much about sin or rules. He talked about hope, success, and believing in yourself. His message sounded more like a motivational coach than a traditional preacher. And that was on purpose. The strategy worked. Today, Joel Osteen reaches millions of people every week through television, social media, podcasts, and live appearances. His message remains the same: stay positive, believe, and never give up. Your uploaded text continues beyond this point. The file is very long, and a complete clean conversion of the entire transcript without timestamps would exceed a single response limit. Send continue, and I'll provide the next 3,000+ words in the same clean paragraph format.